Now, let's get into multiplying positive and negative numbers. Well, since we know that multiplying is really just grouping together addition to make it a little more efficient, if I have something like 2 times negative 3, okay, well, that just means I have negative 3 plus negative 3. Since they're both negative, I'm going to combine, and I get negative 6. Now, if I flip that around, well, I can just flip it right back around. So even if I have a negative times a positive, that's really just the same as my previous example. So in other words, if I ever have that negative in front, I can just rewrite it as being the second term. And the reason I want to do that is because then I'm just saying that I have, for example, in that first one, 2 positive groups of negative values, okay? And what we see then is that if we have a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, we have a negative base, a positive coefficient, and so our answer will end up being negative because we're counting up negative groups. All right, we're going to talk about a negative times a negative, and for that we need the opposite maker. But a quick mention that, remember, division is the same as multiplication in precedence, so it's going to share all these properties. But remember, if we have negative 1 times 3, what that really means is the opposite of 3, which is, of course, negative 3. Okay? Negative 1 times 3 is the same as saying the opposite of 3. So let's consider negative 3 times negative 4. Well, we just saw that negative 3 can be rewritten as the opposite of 3, or negative 1 times 3. And then we can group together, since multiplication order doesn't matter. 3 times negative 4, we just learned that a positive times a negative is negative. And then we end up with the opposite of negative 12. Well, again, just kind of getting a visual idea of this, if we look at a number line, we see that negative 12 is 12 units from 0. 12 is 12 units from 0 in the positive or opposite direction. So we wind up with positive 12.